IVM.
Hey, Ayushi.
Hi, Tash.
Good day, good evening, good afternoon, bonsoir, whatever time of day.
Yes, whenever you are listening to us.
Welcome back to
It is
an episode.
the late evening for us.
It is.
And this is episode 46.
Yes. And I'm in good spirits today because I've just come up from my evening walk.
So jealous.
Yeah, living that sweet auntie life of only going for an evening walk.
No, but I mean, just that you got to exercise today. That's awesome. I have not made time for that today.
That's okay because I hadn't exercised for a whole month and I started like literally 2 days ago. So
awesome.
this is one of those things one has to accept as an adult. You fall off the wagon, you get back on.
You have to get back on the wagon.
Yeah, that's the adult part. No, getting back.
Yeah. I went to office today.
No way, you stepped out of your home and into the streets?
Well, no, I haven't like stepping out in just like general to get stuff or, doing a little bit here and there. But this is the first time that I've gone to office in obviously months now.
Yeah.
And it was really exciting because 3 other members from my team also came in today because we basically have this yearly audit that happens, and there's just no way of doing this audit virtually. There are because there's some physical stuff that they need to verify.
Correct.
So we had to come in to just kind of put the whole packet together so that next week the audit can go off well. And we were so excited. We all carried our tiffin.
Of course, it was like a picnic.
It was, and we sat and we gabbed and just, I don't think we've ever been, let me put it this way.
Each other.
Yeah, the 9 to 5 just seemed so exotic.
Yeah.
It seemed like such a novel concept, like, wow, there's an office and everything's here and there's a setup and I had all my favorite pens.
Oh my God.
I didn't even need them, but I was like, I should take out a pen and a Post-it.
Why not? Huh? Just get the whole experience.
Yes, it was, so I was very happy, but it just landed up being a really long day because, then once you're at office, you're just like, oh, there's so many things that I should just do that it took me really long to get out, but it was good. It was a really fulfilling long day.
Nice. Now you'll sleep like a baby.
I will. I'm having dim sums tonight,
so
baby's having a good day.
Delicious. And speaking of babies, I just would like to tell you, if you've not already read, but Schitt's Creek has got many a nomination.
For the Emmys?
Yes, so many nominations. And Moira is nominated for Best Actor in a Lead Role.
They deserve
all the awards.
No, but to be honest, Catherine O'Hara actually deserves an award. There is nobody who can do what she has done for these 6 seasons. It is absurd.
Yeah.
And we've said this before, but anyway, I don't really care so much about the Emmys.
I know.
Yeah, but yes, I want her to win.
Yeah.
I will watch just because she deserves to win.
Exactly. That's what. And if she don't, I'm going to be upset. Okay, I'm going to be putting out a strongly worded letter to the Academy.
I will be writing a disgruntled tweet.
Yes.
Anyway. Today's episode is, as you might have read, is titled "Fake It Till You Make It."
Yes, and should I read out what "Fake It Till You Make It" is? Just a little nugget behind the phrase itself. It is
yes, of course.
So it is either "Fake It Till You Make It" or "Fake It Until You Make It," if you will. It is an English aphorism. Now, what is an aphorism? I'll tell you. It is a concise.
I'll tell you.
It is a concise or memorable expression of a general truth or principle. They're often handed down from generation to generation, and the concept is distinct. Whatever, that's not important. Fuck that. So yeah, that's it. Okay, it's handed down from generation to generation. So this is not new. Okay, the first time people attested to this phrase being coined was sometime before the 1970s. That's when it picked up a bit of traction. And it is what it suggests, that by imitating, a person can realize those qualities in their real life at some point. Yeah.
I mean, what you've just said means that we don't really have to do the episode anymore.
No, of course we do. Now we can unpack it, Ayushi.
Okay, well, the reason that we even came upon...
We came
across this topic because of a very old article in the Harvard Business Review that
it's 4 years old.
Yeah, well, that's old.
You're saying very old as if it's like a study in the 70s.
No, but I'm saying a study back in 2016. It just seems old because I think it's a very different world already.
Oh, but okay, anyway. So that's what I found this article.
Anyway, she found this article that was titled, "Why Your Late 20s is the Worst Time in Your Life."
Lol.
And she sent it as a joke, and I was like, without even reading it, I was like, agreed. But basically this article was written by Ran Zilka, who at the time was the chief data scientist at Happify. And Happify is this like web, it's a platform basically for people to better manage their stress, positive and negative feelings, and kind of create like an actual tracking way to work towards a more happy outlook in life and to lead a more positive life. And if you would like to sponsor us, please get in touch. But anyway, he was talking about this. He was talking about this late 20s period of life.
Yeah.
Because, and it's based on the study that these guys at Happify ran, which is they used like 88,000 of their users. And they pooled this data together and kind of came up with these, no, I wouldn't say truths, but these are the kind of main things that they were talking about, which is that your late 20s and early 30s, this mid to late 20s is a very hard time in most people's lives.
Yeah.
And the average age for depression is now in your mid 20s, as opposed to like say 30 years ago when the average age was late 40s, early 50s was the average age for depression to set in.
So that's a big change actually. Late 40s, early 50s, and now between 20 and 30 is the onset, no?
Average time for, the onset of depression, which actually, pun unintended, it's a very depressing thought.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm like, to think that your brain isn't, okay, we'll talk about that later, but you've not emotionally caught up to that mental stage you would be at when you're in your 40s or your 50s. And then now to deal with the mental health aspect of it much younger, I would say our generation has it tough.
Yeah, but I mean, there's always that question of, have we just made it tougher for ourselves?
That's also true, our favorite question.
And but yeah, so this was a very sobering thought in itself. It starts off like that, but then he goes on to describe sort of the 4 stages of this quarter life crisis, right?
Okay.
And the
are we all going through it right now? Yes, we are, right? You and I.
I think we're somewhere in the middle of it.
Okay, nice. I think. Okay.
So these 4 stages, right? And I think you can talk about the first stage more because you had some stuff to unpack there. But I should say that these 4 stages is not. He makes it very clear that it's not sort of like a step by step, like it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you're out of it. You can keep repeating the same mistakes. You can be stuck in a pattern, stuck in a step, and it can happen to you multiple times before you kind of come out on the other side. But basically, the 4 stages are like, first, you get locked into an early commitment. So what we do as young adults is we fall into these, what he calls pretend adulthood phases or decisions, which could be like a job or a certain home and an apartment, a partnership, a relationship. So we get stuck in what we think are the adult things to do.
Yeah.
And that's that first stage. And you get locked in.
Yeah.
Then you leave the above, and you obviously come untethered. So you start feeling lonely and very separated and isolated. And this also, this plays a part and plays a role in your mental makeup. finally you get to that stage of like where you start reflecting and you try to recalibrate. So you force yourself into a new role, which could be a new job, start dating more or look for more hobbies, put yourself outside comfort zones, because you suddenly realize that you need to find connection again.
Yeah.
And it's only after that that you come out on the other side in your early 30s, mid 30s, when you're suddenly a little bit more settled. So, like he said, this is not some straightforward process. You can get stuck in that rut of keep trying new things. You don't find something that sticks, whatever it is. But I think something that really stuck out to you, which you wanted to discuss, was this pretend adulthood trap.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, you don't even realize it when you're falling into it, because now I will just straight up admit that when I read this article, that part especially of like falling into these commitments which seem like the right adults to take, I real hard relate happened, because I took on a lot more than I think I was age-wise ready for when I was only 23 or 24. No, 23.
Yeah.
I was 23.
23, 24.
Yeah, so already like at that time, work was a pretty full-on gig. So there was like this new world of working in a very adult way, and then I decided
you had a huge commitment in your job, like you couldn't walk away from it.
Huge. Like that was one commitment, and then I was like, okay, to make this life work out, maybe I need to get an apartment. And then one thing led to another, and then I found myself living with my partner. So I had a very, very heavy commitment at my job also, and that I got out of at some point. And it took me so long to even like get mentally okay from that, to just kind of untether and rewire myself. And now I'm 27, and in fact the last 2-3 weeks of lockdown, I have learned that maybe I took on too much commitment, and I fell into this trap of being the good adult or the right kind of adult, or I don't know what it was. It just felt like, oh, this is obviously what I must do. Of course people move out of their parents' homes and rent places. Why not? Maybe I should do the same thing. And why not? It made sense to me at that time. And now, I mean, in the last week or 10 days, I've come to a place where, well, I can't say but my partner and I have reached a decision where we are going to move out of this place we've set up together, because of adult reasons also now. So to get out of one kind of pretend adulthood trap.
Yeah. So you're kind of in stage 2 now.
I guess. I mean, that's the thing. I wanted to take time off to focus on myself. And remember when we did our lessons learned episode, I was very hard relating to make yourself a priority and all of that.
Yeah.
So that I'm on that train big time. So I think I've reached stage number 2.
But it is interesting what you're saying is that the minute you, I mean, I'm not saying that this is the exact path for everyone, but by and large, when you finish your first formalized education, so I don't mean high school, but I mean college, the assumption is that the minute you're out of college, you should, you got to get a job, you have to start like leveling up.
Exactly.
You start getting competitive. It's time for you to find a partner. It's time for you to, get ambitious. It's time for you to start saving, and then eventually in a couple of years settle down. Like all these ideas that, and I'm not saying that they're wrong, because there's a lot of those that I prescribe to myself.
Of course, no wrong or right. It just boils
there are some well-established markers for success and development.
Yeah.
Which I think when you adhere to it's not wrong, and it's definitely not like limiting or whatever you might think it is. I think it's great. It does keep you sort of on a path, and it keeps with a goal at the end. But I think, like you said, what happens is we think that because we have to do things only one way, we commit to certain things too early. Like my first job, I thought that
correct that this is
like this is what I'm supposed to do. And I thought, like, within like a couple months, I was like, I'm not really happy here. But I thought, how can I just leave my job, my first ever job, in like 2-3 months? I have to stick this out for another year at least.
Yeah.
and I am making good money. So that's something that I should be focused on, because who makes this kind of money in a first job?
Yeah.
But what I should have been focused on is actually the way I should have been thinking is you shouldn't be wasting your time in something that it's not engaging you mentally. It's not about not having a job. It's about you finding the right way to employ your time and your abilities.
For sure.
So, but I committed to it, like, like you did, in the same way, because I was like, no, dude, it's my first job. I can't just like flake out. Like, I'm not a flaky person. Yeah. What will people say that she quit her job in 3 months?
Yeah.
And that kind of failure or whatever was very hard. But the minute I left it and I felt that untethered, like, oh my God, I'm floating, is when I think I very floatedly nice landed on something that
you found I should have proof. Yeah.
Yes, I should have been doing in the first place.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing. No,
it only came to me because I took this accidental first, not accidental, I mean, this first job.
Yeah.
And I mean, I learned a lot about myself, about the world, all of that good stuff. But yeah, I wish I had, in fact, allowed myself to walk out of it a little bit earlier.
Yeah. So, that's what it takes its own time. I think everyone, the penny drop moment. And I mean, something like a job, I'm not saying it's easier than a relationship. Not at all. That's not,
No, of course. I'm saying I have no way of saying the relationship thing, right? Like, my point of context here is employment.
Correct.
Because I don't have that experience right now to speak of. My last relationship was more like a happy accident going into it and a happy accident getting out of it. Like,
it was really lord hard. Happy accident getting out of it.
And because it seems sad, but then when you look at it later, you're like, well, I'm glad I'm out of it, because that wasn't for me at all.
Yeah.
So in that way, these 4 stages, I do think that there is something logical about the steps that he's talking about. I think there is some truth to saying that we sometimes walk ourselves into a commitment that maybe doesn't work for us, but we do it because it seems like the right decision.
Thing to do, and seems like the grown-up thing to do. And also, actually, I don't know if this is everyone or just me, but I had a lot of these childhood kidas, and how I'd really imagine, how my life would be in my 20s.
Well, it's because we thought we grew up and it would be like Friends.
Yeah, literally. So I really went all guns blazing to get this life for myself, get the apartment, get the boyfriend, have the life, be successful, and whatever, all of that. It's happened. It almost became like, I'm not saying that that's how it is. I'm sure there's a lot of goodness and pureness also in purity in this situation. But if it's just like an interesting thought, what if this is just part of your imagination and the child in you trying to live the adult life that they had dreamt for you when they were little.
But that's another thing, right? Pretend play.
Yeah, very nice segue then, though, Ayushi. What a way to come to pretend play.
Thank you. And thank you, actually, for giving me that segue. But it's another thing that I wanted to discuss with you is also this pretend play. Like, so just to give you a brief understanding, pretend play it's a psychological stage in childhood development, like when children are very young. And basically what pretend play is, like when you play house or like office or like, superheroes, or like I'm mummy, your daddy, and stuffed toys are all our children. Like that entire stage where kids are creating these little imaginary situations for themselves, it's actually a huge developmental stage. So just a few of the benefits of it would be like it helps build language skills, social and emotional skills, moral development of empathy, self-esteem when you execute these mini adult tasks, which is something that it still stays with us. And like obviously having a good imagination nurtures thinking skills.
Of course.
Things like fighting and roughhousing around children actually teaches them self-regulation. Like when you're fighting, when a child itself learns when to stop, learns when to pull back, that's like self-regulation. These are all skills that children learn. And that's why pretend play is something that parents should encourage and allow
in a monitored environment, of course.
Yeah, of course. But I'm saying it's not unusual and it's actually beneficial.
So I have a question. No, you finished saying?
Yeah, go ahead. No, I'm done.
It's a bit like, this is just thought of role play. That's all. I just wanted to put that out there.
No, but I mean, a lot of the articles I was reading about pretend play is like the fact that we, as children, we allow it, but as we grow older, we turn it into a taboo because the first association with pretend play has become more like a sexual role play thing. And immediately it's like taboo for you to either spend time fantasizing because it seems like a waste of time to just fantasize about things as an adult.
Yeah.
And then there's also the taboo of like, because of those illicit thoughts, because of like, sexual role play and all.
But isn't role play also like they legitimately use it in group therapy? I mean,
oh, of course. I mean, even the fact that adults indulge in things like improv, or they indulge in things like the fact that acting, theater, space and movement therapy, all of this exists. It's all basically offshoots of the same thing, is reimagining situations where you feel safe or where you can control the narrative.
Right.
So anyway, all of this, I'm going to grapple it all and kind of tether it back to this faking it till you make it thing, is that as kids, like you said, we created this world where we were like, when we were kids, we thought that when we grow up, I'll have a job and I'll have a partner and I'll
wear a bra and I'll wear lipstick.
And I'll go buy fruit from the place that my mom buys fruit. And, when I'm older, I'll go to this store and buy this because that's what adults do.
Yeah.
And that pattern replicating that as children, we played around in your bedrooms. But now when you get older, you're like, I think at some level, Tash, we're just playing that same game now as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that autopilot has kicked in sometimes where you're like, oh, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Correct. Because it's also like how much of the human mind and the life that we live and this world and how it's structured, how much of it actually supports growth and like mental exploration and all of these things.
So that's like that whole, then you get into the topic of like your subconscious versus your conscious, right? Like, what is it can we really distinguish between reality and fantasy? Can we really, do we know exactly what, are we just projecting the idea of what we want our reality to look like onto our life? So that's all we work towards. So there's, this kind of stuff I think goes far deeper, and there are possibly way more clinically qualified people to like explain why we slip away into like our dreamland and daydream and imagine another world, or the fact that some people like this is truly like a way of putting yourself to sleep, like when people have insomnia. Adults are encouraged to think about situations where they feel happy, like make up a situation that you feel happy in, and start imagining it and start putting yourself in it and start becoming like you're acting in it and it's real, and then you might fall asleep and dream about it. Like, for example,
visualization exercise.
Yeah, it's like if you can't go to sleep, you start thinking, okay, what if I was in Hollywood?
Correct.
What if I actually met Matthew McConaughey and he and I bumped into each other? Oh my God, maybe we have a cup of coffee. And like you start creating this weird fantasy, but it lulls you into a sense of happiness and safety. And so you might fall asleep. So these are actually like, people use these things as ploys. Like all of this is tricking your mind into thinking that you're doing better than you are, or that you can do better than you are doing.
It's a kind of coping mechanism.
Yes.
Should we take a little break? Okay, say sorry.
No, I'm just saying, I think that we shouldn't completely dismiss it just because it means daydreaming or fantasizing.
Right, no, of course. Imagination.
We can come back to that.
Yeah, why not? Let's just hold this thought and take a little quick break and come back.
Sure.
Hey everybody, welcome to another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you're not following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Paytm Money. So, a great week of shows behind us, and hope that you've been catching up on as much of it as you can. We had Abhishek Bachchan on Football Shitball. Yeah, let me say that again. Abhishek Bachchan was on Football Shitball. Did I mention Abhishek Bachchan was on Football Shitball? That was a fun episode. You should definitely check that out. Really, really deep conversation about cricket and things like that. We had Vikram Kochar on Cyrus Says, talking about the platforms and stuff like what's going on over there. On the note, Maruk had spoken to Sanjay Jha, which was again a really, really interesting conversation. On Edges and Sledges, the guys are having an interesting conversation about, well, what are our favorite formats of cricket and things like that. So it's just really been a really, really awesome week on the network, and please do check things out. And with that, let's get you back to your show.
Welcome back.
Wow. It's really funny is when we take these breaks on when we're recording like this, because you can't see each other the minute you say and we're back, for a second I get like, wait, where was
I? What
are we doing?
We're talking about reality and fantasy, and we can't dismiss this thinking up situations and fantasizing.
Yes, so there was some study and people have written some theoretical papers on this, of the role and importance of pretend play even as an adult.
Yeah.
The fact that it still exists, it's a great coping mechanism. And of course, dude, you have to control this, right? You can't just spend your entire day daydreaming or pretending.
Yeah.
And obviously the difference is that there's one thing to pretend that you're doing okay, but there's another to like start lying to yourself. There are obviously boundaries to what we're talking about.
Healthy boundaries are always key.
Correct. But it's an interesting idea that when we say fake it till you make it, there is some sort of there is some neurological brain science to this, right? Like your subconscious has no filter. It's just like this sort of storage facility. There's no judgment control here. There's no rationing capacity. There's no logic. There's just thoughts.
Correct.
There's just everything that you know and think and have absorbed is in your subconscious.
Yeah.
It's your conscious that actually has to imprint on reality. That's the thing that uses your belief system as a rule book and then makes your subconscious, like channels it through it, right? So this entire idea that if my conscious can control my subconscious, then I should be able to control, I should be able to control the thoughts that I have.
Yes.
Which means that if I'm having certain negative thoughts, I can just project positive thoughts on top of that.
Which brings me to my favorite coping mechanism.
Pretending?
Act as if you already have it. Or simply act as if. This is...
Oh my God. Someone is trying to FaceTime me. It's Ria. I have to cut on her. I'm so sorry, Ria.
Problem.
But yeah. Sorry, go back.
So it's like, I don't know if this is the right topic, but to bring this in, but there's also the whole, the secret and the law of attraction thing, right? So it's
I think it does kind of fit in some way here.
Yeah. Because even that, it's functioning on a very pure, innocent kind of childlike make-believe thing, but that fate kind of becomes a mirror of the imagination that you would have as a child, for example.
Yes.
And kids really believe. So in the same way, as an adult, if you really, really believe it, I believe it happens. How many times I'll say believe? Say it one more time, believe. Sorry.
No, but I mean, it's really funny that you say this without giving away too many details. But recently, you kind of manifested a connection, a sort of relationship into your life. Like you just happened to be talking about this person, or something about them, and you said it a couple of times, and you had great admiration, and somehow life sort of brought you that connection and brought that person into your life.
Yeah, it's hella weird.
And I'm not, that's more in terms of the secret, right? That's not so much about what we were saying, like fake it till you make it thing. But I think they are connected in the sense.
For sure, yeah.
Because it's just, and I know that this is becoming repetitive, but it's just the same thing. It's about how well you can trick your mind into doing something and coping with X so that you may successfully complete Y.
Yeah, so there's a book called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. And this book is basically saying that the subconscious mind, it can constantly work for your benefit if you consciously make it work. It's your bitch, essentially.
That's exactly what I said, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
your conscious controls your subconscious. So you have to figure out how the potential of it. It's unlimited.
Yeah.
It's what you decide.
Yeah.
So I think in that same capacity, I just think it's interesting because I want to try this from now on, is where I'm just going to start telling myself that certain things are going to happen.
100%, Ayushi, that's for sure.
And whether it's like I'm tricking myself into believing it, or I'm trying to put out that energy or whatever you want to call it into the universe, either or, I don't see any harm in just following this, faking it a little bit till I make it kind of a thing. Because there are parts of my life where I'm kind of like, see, I don't know if this idea is going to work. And I don't know whether this is going to pan out the way that I think.
And that's
but
okay.
I think I'm just going to pretend that it's going to.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Always, like, mindset wise, I think we should always gear for best case scenario. Like the outlook.
See, there is only one option in life.
What?
Success.
Success. मतलब और कोई option ही नहीं है. Success or happiness.
No, that is also success.
Interesting.
This is a new phrase that my brother has brought into my life.
Success is happiness. Everything is success.
No, not that way. He anything I say is like, Didi, there's one option in life.
Success.
This is success. And I love it because even if happiness is the goal, then becoming happy is success. That is success.
Correct. You have to become successful at whatever you want, and that is success. Okay.
And I want you all to think of this. It has sort of seeped into my
subconscious.
Yes, over the last 10 days that he's been at home. And it's just kind of been like, everything I say, I'm like, well, what are we going to do? He's like, well, there's only one option.
Success. I love this. And
I like it because now I look at something and I'm like, well,
only one option.
There's only one option. This has to work out. It has to be successful.
Yeah.
And whether it's a cake that I'm making or it's, doing something else in the house or figuring out the fire stick because it stopped working, I was like, there is only one option, and that is to fix this.
Yes.
We don't know how, but we are going to get there. Yeah. And it's just going to happen. And whether it was the faking it or just trying 1,000 different pressing buttons or just shouting at the TV till it worked, it happened.
You did it. You manifested it.
And I am now going to try this thing of just tricking my brain into thinking that things are working out.
How do you think people manage diets? No, they smell the food and trick their brains into thinking they've eaten it.
Yes, but the problem is when the food gets that close to my nose, it's also
just
that close to my
mouth. Same. I wonder if this tricking activity can work for exercising.
I think tricking does work for exercise.
Oh.
And I think it's I was doing it to myself in the Kela thing because I used to trick myself into believing, I was like, look, it's only 28 minutes.
Yeah.
And 28 minutes is only like a few sets of 7 minutes. So really all it is 7 minutes. So if you can just get through 7 minutes, you can get through the workout.
Right.
And that's how I used to trick myself into like finishing it. And then the minute you're done with the workout, your brain takes over because it's like endorphins on endorphins. You're like, yeah, I'm done. I don't regret this, not one bit.
Right. Makes sense. I like it.
Yeah, but I mean, I think there's a lot of ways that we as people trick ourselves into doing things without even knowing that it's a trick, like without even knowing our brain is doing this. So I guess what I'm trying to say through this episode is I'm not advocating lying to yourself or lying to the world around you. But I think I am definitely advocating that if it means just faking it a little bit, you should.
Yeah, and I would definitely endorse the imagination, pretend play angle in your head also. Like, if you were to call them visualization exercises, it's
that's a more professional way.
It's also scientifically called the placebo effect,
of course,
a visual placebo you give yourself. So kabhi na kabhi wo actually asar karne lagega.
And look, there's been enough studies in the world to know that the placebo effect is an effect, is a thing, right? Like we all know that we can, and actually we should have gone with that. That should have been a better way to prove this, is that if your body can be tricked into curing certain levels of ailments just out of believing that it's getting a cure or a medicine, is like, me, proof enough that you can trick your mind into also achieving things.
Ayushi, I think, after not having anything, then thinking, oh, what will we do this episode on? I am feeling a little mind blown.
We've tricked ourselves into an episode.
We've tricked ourselves. I'm like really tripping on this subconscious thing big time.
I also want to say there's a lot of people, a lot of successful people, like, from and I'm talking about like your Steve Jobs, Jeff Bezos, those kind of people, Phil Knight, and all these, great achievers and entrepreneurs and inventors, whatever, who at some level rely a lot on bravado and showiness to portray the image of success. And we all believe it a lot. Like, look at someone like Elon Musk. Of course, the man has achieved a lot, but his attitude towards success, his attitude towards winning, of just being like, oh, I'm going to make a rocket.
Yeah.
I'm going to make this go to this. I'm going to make a space program. I'm going to do this. And there is a science, and there's working, and there's 1,000 people behind these ideas. But a lot of what he does, and a lot of his appeal to people, to younger people, as a mentor, as an inspirational leader, is a lot that just, this guy just says it and then he just does it. So maybe I should just start saying it. You just, you know what? I am going to get that promotion.
Yeah.
I am going to work towards a better presentation. I am going to come up with a new chapter.
Yeah.
And somehow, at some level, those, when you see successful people do it, it doesn't, you think that it's all content, but a lot of the stuff that they say, it's a whole bunch of shit. Like, I remember the first time I ever did debates in the 8th grade. One of the 12th grade, our seniors, he told me, he was like,
bullshit with confidence.
He literally told me, he's saying, you can say shit, but if you say shit with confidence, people will believe you.
Ayushi, this is a whole other episode of how idiotic people have gotten ahead just based on confidence.
But Tash, I was so good at debates. Of course, I mean, I'm a special candidate.
You are very good. I'm not saying.
But a lot of times when I was on stage saying things I didn't necessarily believe, it was just, I'm here for success. So I'm going to bullshit with confidence.
Absolutely.
And we're going into a different episode. That whole confidence thing is another thing. You're right. But I think it circles back to the same thing. Is you can fake it till you make it a little bit.
Yes.
I think it does work. We should wrap up only because I think we're repeating ourselves. I think people get it.
Absolutely, though. I just want to pipe in and say, fake it till you make it, but never fake it to yourself. I mean, yes, you can trick your mind, but inside you need to be practical and know one's situation and realistically have that side also. This subconscious can be working for you full time. That's a separate thing you have to work on actively. And
I mean, there's a caveat to all of this, is delusion. Like, I'm not advocating delusion. You guys know how much people who pretend to be things that they're not riles me up. I'm constantly triggered by these people on the internet and on Instagram.
Yeah.
But I think when it comes to, like, if you are relatively stable, which I hope you are, for your own sake, like, as I want people to achieve that stability.
The success for you and for
yes, exactly. That's what I mean. Is that I think this is something that as
adults,
baby adults, we can do, and that's what that whole article was, right? In your late 20s, because it's such a tough time.
Yeah.
It statistically is a stressful time in your life. And if this can make it a little easier for you.
Absolutely. We must actively choose to retrain our thoughts.
Yeah. And, once you get good at this, it's so much easier for, like you said, retrain your thoughts for different things.
Absolutely.
For I don't know, leading a more disciplined, more healthy, more exercise-based, like whatever it is, you can start training your brain. And I guess at the end of the day, the brain has to work for us.
100%. I'm tired of the mind controlling me. I'm a control my mind.
There was this really funny shower thought I had the other day, which I wanted to bring up on the podcast, where it was like this whole body image issue also, where I was like, oh, I'm not happy with it. And then I realized, I was like, to be honest, it's not my body, it's my mind. Like, my body is doing everything that it's supposed to. It's
healthy, yeah.
It's processing food, it's walking, it's reaching, it's touching, it's seeing, it's hearing. It's like the body is doing it's doing its job.
The mind.
Like, how I am. Somebody does as long as you do your job, I'm so happy with it.
Yeah, exactly.
So my body is doing it. It's my mind that's not doing its job.
Yeah, I think.
And so a lot of, again, it just comes down to the fact that it's your mind, and we have to find a way to trick our minds into, even if it means tricking your mind into loving yourself.
You finally actually reach there. I agree with you. This episode is not about trickery, but it's about positive trickery.
I think we've also said tricking your own mind so many times at this point that it's kind of like we've hypnotized. I hope this is a hypnotic episode.
I hope you have been hypnotized now, and now when you wake up from this episode, you go forth and achieve all your successful dreams.
Because there is only one option.
Success. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, and all other genders, thank you.
And next week the next 2 episodes we're going to do are a sibling series.
Oh yeah,
we're very excited because this is the
you announced it cleverly now.
Yeah, because if they're listening to this, then they'll realize they should listen to the next one.
It's going to be wild.
Yes, it's a sibling series because it's Rakhi, so why not?
Absolutely. Alrighty then.
Okay. All right, have a lovely week.
Keep it real.
Catch you guys soon.
Make it till you make it.
You are being tricked. You are getting very
sleepy. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
How many times have you motivated yourself to improve your sleep, or lose weight, or be more productive? How many times have you failed? Hi, my name is Ashton Doctor. Tune into my show, The Habit Coach Podcast, where we focus on creating small, tiny habits to improve your life instead of those big, impossible tasks. So make listening to me a habit every Monday, Wednesday and Friday on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com or on your favorite podcasting app.
Sachin Tendulkar, Virat Kohli, Don Bradman, and now Cyrus Brocha. Okay, probably not in the right company. I mean, Don Bradman is Australian. But it's called Cyrus Says, a wonderful show about everything. Find the show on the IVM Podcast app, ivmpodcast.com, or wherever you listen to podcasts.